everybody, and welcome back to the Third Opinion Podcast and Radio Show, Episode 9.
Hello. Greetings.
I'm Elisha Hunt.
I'm Ethan, sick boy, Duncan.
That's your middle name at this point.
I feel like I'm just constantly, I feel like a baseball catcher, but all I'm catching is the sniffles. I got rid of it 1 week.
You got rid of it 1 week.
It's back again.
And it's back.
With a fighting fury.
It's like Slim Shady, except for illness.
I wish it would just sit down. Those
Me
sniffles.
Too. Yeah, me too.
Anyway. All right.
So today's episode, going to be a real interesting boy for this one. We are recording this actually October 8th, Sunday, and October 9th, when this first airs, is going to be Columbus Day. Or if you're...
Oh, like the 70s detective show, right? Columbo Day.
Yes.
Excellent. Have you ever seen that show?
No, I have not.
It's a good time.
We made this joke before the podcast also.
It's a good time.
It's a good time. But, so Columbus Day, October 9th, or Indigenous Peoples Day, October 9th.
Depending on your religion. No. Columbus, real interesting guy.
I think interesting is the best way of putting it.
Interesting guy. Definitely controversial.
Unbelievably controversial.
Which is so weird because, like, I think of when I was a kid and, like, they just tell you about Columbus. You're like, oh, he discovered America. It's whatever.
He discovered America, and no one believed when he said that the Earth wasn't flat and all this nonsense. The Earth is flat?
It is flat.
Oh. That's our time, folks.
I'm just kidding.
Earth is
clearly square. Octagonal.
It's an octagonal shape. Earth is actually a pentagon. It's quite fascinating how it
ran by the U.S. government.
Ran by the U.S. government.
It's a conspiracy theory. No, the Earth is spherical in nature.
It's quite round. If you go anywhere that's not on Earth, like above Earth by a little bit,
quite curvy. One continuous.
But so let me tell you some real quick news about Columbus Day. Some recent news about Columbus Day. I should have prepared this beforehand. But people are wanting to make Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day,
which has been they've been trying to do that for a couple of years now, haven't they?
Yes,
it seems like it's been going on for a little while. I mean, it seems like you hear about it every year. It's like, all right, it's Columbus Day again. Just kidding. We're going to change the name. Maybe.
Yeah. I know that, excuse me. I know that in some places they actually have changed it to Indigenous Peoples Day, which I really think it should be that, because Columbus was not the first European to land in North America.
He wasn't even the first person in North America.
No, exactly.
I mean...
Like the very first, if you really want to get down to it, the very first European people in the Americas at all, the very first Europeans were like West Norse sailors and explorers.
The Vikings.
Yeah, pretty much the Vikings.
They pillage and take people's lands.
Well, for the most,
and they mess with war.
We'll have to have a Vikings episode. There's a very interesting YouTube video that like clears up all the misconceptions about Vikings, and it's like they were in the Renaissance times,
right?
And around the Industrial Revolution time, they were played in operas as being these pillaging and these not nice guys,
right?
But if you actually look like in those areas, and there's archaeologists and stuff, like finding steel, like modern style steel.
Oh, yeah, I mean they were definitely more advanced than you give them credit for.
Yeah, for real. Well, I mean that's just people.
Right.
People have been incredible for 12,000 years now.
Yeah. We do some pretty nifty stuff.
So like for example, West Norse sailors explored and briefly set on the shores of present-day Canada, according to a bunch of Icelandic sagas. And I'm getting all this from Wikipedia and just, knowledge and stuff.
Newfoundland.
But the reason they left, and, there aren't, blue-eyed, white-haired, and blonde-haired Canadians is because of like unbelievably violent natives.
Right.
They're like, we don't know who you are. Why are you coming here?
Which is pretty understandable.
Yeah, if that happened now,
it's kind of like, you know, if somebody were just to drive their car into your front yard and just like, this is mine now.
yeah. Oh, this place is cool. This place is nifty. And you're like,
I'm gonna stay here.
yeah,
No, this is mine.
this is absolutely not yours. But they were not in the business. The Vikings, for lack of a better term for now, were not in the business of taking people's lands, conquering civilizations,
Messing with
wars. Like, they didn't do any of that. They were known for doing that because of plays and operas and stuff in the, Renaissance and industrial period. But like what the Vikings actually did was like set up modern trade, for example. They owned at the time the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries. They really set up. They were like in control of like 85% of Europe's sea trades and all that, because they had the best ships.
Right. Which, I mean, if you think about it, that really speaks to kind of to the wealth of those areas.
Yeah,
nowadays.
exactly.
I mean, you have Sweden and Finland and
and Norway.
Norway's the Dutch areas.
Yeah, exactly. Norway's
they're all
doing
relatively
the best.
Denmark. They're all relatively prosperous areas. Of Europe. I mean, you don't ever hear of them having financial crises.
No, exactly.
They manage their money very well, and they know somewhat what they're doing. Of course, they're also a very small country, so it makes it a lot easier to budget and do those sort of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's another soapbox for another day.
Yeah, neither of us prepared for this, really. I just was bringing up before the podcast, before we started recording, like, we should talk about Columbus Indigenous Peoples Day. And Ethan's like, all right, cool.
Fine
and
by
then
me.
we talked for 40 minutes and then hit record.
And here we are.
And here we are, episode 9 of the Third Opinion Podcast. Mondays at 2, Fridays at 5.
Mondays at 2, Fridays at 5. I've learned.
You've learned.
I've grown. I'm a big boy.
We're 9 episodes in.
I'm a big boy now.
Every time I'm with my friends or whatever, and anytime I can bring up my podcast, I always say verbatim, I do a podcast with my friend Ethan Duncan. Third Opinion Podcast, Mondays at 2, Fridays at 5. I always say that, and everyone is so tired of the spiel and the shtick, but it's so funny.
That is really funny.
But steering this Viking
back
warboat back
on course
to the history trading route. I'll have a horn. I need to buy a horn.
You don't need a horn.
Yes, I do.
We've talked about that. Anyway, so Columbus.
He sailed the ocean blue.
Who was Columbo? A detective Columbus. Who was Columbus?
So,
Spanish gentleman.
He was actually Italiano. He was Italian.
A spaghetti gentleman.
He was a spaghetti American.
Spaghetti.
Have you seen
Italian.
those? Have you seen those memes?
I don't think I have.
Where they say like Italian American, they say like a spaghetti American.
No.
Instead, those are really funny. So Christopher Columbus was pretty much just an Italian maritime explorer. And whenever he was like, I want to go sailing. He wanted to go sailing to find trade, and thought that he could find a shorter route to India.
To make it a living.
Yeah, to make it to India. And then whenever he couldn't do that,
because India had very profitable goods at the time. Spices were
exactly
huge trade item.
Yeah, whenever he brought this to Italy, they were like, no way.
You crazy.
We already have a route to India, and it works fine.
It's not broke. We're not fixing it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So he went to Spain, and then Spain was like, fine, just leave us alone. Pretty much is what happened.
Sure, have a boat.
Here, take 3 small... They gave him small ships, too. Like, you think the 3 ships...
Take some canoes.
Yeah, take some canoes.
Take some kayaks with your friends. Basically. Fleet of kayaks.
So the actual... Going back to the Vikings very briefly, Leif Erikson was actually the one that led the very first recorded
to Canada
expedition to North America.
Mm-hmm.
But the voyages of Christopher Columbus led to the first lasting contact with the Americas.
I believe there's a statue in Canada somewhere of him, if I recall correctly. I may be wrong.
of Leif
I may
Erikson?
be wrong on that.
I think so.
I may be wrong on that.
Here's a cool fact. I actually have a friend who's from Norway, and his name is Greg. Shout out to Greg. And he said that whenever it was Leif Erikson Day,
Yeah.
and I was making a joke about Leif Erikson Day because of SpongeBob, he said, you know why he's called Erikson? And I said, no, why? He said, because he is Eric's son. Eric the Red son. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, history. But he has a Norwegian accent, but it's really hard to do. But he's like, yeah, history. And I was like, that's so cool. But so the voyages of Christopher Columbus led to the first lasting European contact with the Americas, inaugurating a period of exploration, conquest, and colonization that lasts for several centuries until the today.
Newfoundland. Statues in Newfoundland.
Oh, cool.
In Canada.
In Canada. So he did not, prove the world was round.
Right.
He didn't discover America
Because it's flat.
because it's flat.
Shout out to the flat earthers.
Who was the rapper that is as like, yo, the earth is flat?
I saw this story this week. It was
B.O.B.?
B.O.B.
Yeah,
Yep.
the rapper Bob.
Bob
the rapper.
Bob the rapper. What a weird guy.
He is a weird dude.
I don't know.
He said that like he would.
He's doing like a GoFundMe or like a Fund Me project.
Yeah. It is GoFundMe.
To get a satellite to prove the Earth is flat.
Or I think it wasn't
Because you can't trust the government
You
satellites.
can't trust NASA.
Bring out your tinfoil hats. The Earth is flat. End of story. End of discussion.
End of discussion. The Earth is flat.
I
You
don't-
heard it here first, folks.
I don't really think the Earth is flat. Just for those of you listening.
Yeah, and neither
It is properly round and spherical.
quite. Yeah. But so here's why people. Well, to close the Viking thing, Vikings were incredible. Christopher Columbus was not so much incredible. Still, not to knock that he didn't do anything.
No, right. He
I have as much disdain for him as people on the internet, and as much as the next guy. But he wasn't just some schmuck that got a couple boats and went across the ocean for 3 months.
I mean he was trying to find goods and
Yeah,
he was trying to turn a buck is what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I mean I don't blame him. I mean you can't blame him.
Yeah, and he really did spark the beginning of European exploration.
Yeah.
Like him doing that in 1492, England was like, "Well, we got to do what Spain's doing," and then France was like, "Well, if they're going to go across the ocean, so can we.
We gotta do it too.
We got to do it too."
Who's got the bigger boat?
Me, and I can prove
It's not you. Crazy.
But here's why people want to rename it to Indigenous Peoples Day, because Christopher Columbus essentially spearheaded the transatlantic slave trade and has been accused by several historians as initiating the genocide of the Hispaniola natives. Because that's where he first landed, was in Hispaniola.
Right.
And, I mean, I don't blame them for wanting to rename it.
No, I have, differencing viewpoints on that. I mean, to me, it's a historical event, and the whole political correct movement is just, it's a soapbox,
Yeah.
for me. Like there's some parts of it that are good. There's some parts of it that are bad.
Yeah, and I agree to to all of that.
So it's kind of like for me, like the whole removing of like the Civil War statues and everything that's been going on lately.
Yeah.
I don't see the point. I understand the argument and the frustration behind it, but I mean, it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change history.
You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yeah.
change people's mindsets.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's where to me, that's where the issue lies.
And I'm pretty sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right. See, as a contrast, I'm all for getting rid of the Confederate statues and stuff.
And that's fine.
Because we have history because of that.
Differencing of opinions, and that's fine.
Exactly. And that's why we have a show.
Yeah.
We're going to wrestle after this.
I'm a bigger boy.
You're slightly more thick than I am. Thick with 2 C's and a Q.
Thick one.
What's crazy is like Christopher Columbus saw his accomplishments close to the end of his life.
Yeah.
As he said that his primary thing was spreading the light of Christian as a religion.
Right.
And like not starting. Well, you know,
which is another interesting.
yeah,
point in and of
it's
itself.
so interesting.
Because I'm a fairly religious person,
Yeah,
and it's like anything. There's a lot of good and bad to it.
yeah,
It's like it's it's like they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah.
you may come in with all the best intentions, and then you give everybody smallpox. So it's just kind of here nor there. Or then you have a long period of crusades.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like, well, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, and you can't win everything.
No, you can't.
If history was perfect, we would all still be farming land, and not talking to you through magic space rays.
And do I look like a farmer to you? Don't answer that. But seriously though, I can see the argument on both sides. I really can.
Yeah. So I'm for the whole renaming it to Indigenous Peoples Day. I think it's a great idea.
I could take it or leave it. It wouldn't bother me either way.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it just kind of is what it is.
So here's also from Wikipedia. In 1977, the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas, sponsored the United Nations in Geneva, or sponsored by the United Nations in Geneva, began to discuss replacing Columbus Day in the United States with a celebration to be known as Indigenous Peoples Day. So that's been around since 1977.
Yeah, I mean it's like I said, it literally every year you hear about it. It's like, well, let's give it another go here. So probably one day soon it probably will change.
It probably will. Probably
in all honesty, probably in a year or two, I could see it happening.
In July of 1990, at the first Continental Conference on 500 Years of Indian Resistance in Quito, Ecuador, representatives of Indian groups throughout the Americas agreed that they would mark 1992 the 500th anniversary of the first voyages of Christopher Columbus as a year to promote continental unity and liberation, which is pretty nifty. I'm trying to find the other thing. I should have highlighted this, but a few states. Let me find it. I think I found it.
Have already made
okay.
Have they already made that
So
change?
at least 4 states do not celebrate Columbus Day, which are Alaska, Hawaii, Oregon, and South Dakota. South Dakota officially celebrates Native American Day instead. And I've been to South Dakota, and South Dakota is rad.
It's interesting too, because Alaska and Hawaii make a lot of sense, because they are
really disconnected from the United
still very much populated by a lot of indigenous people.
Yeah, or people like that.
Or people descended from indigenous people.
Yeah, exactly. See, Hawaii is still has, or let me find it actually. I think they mentioned.
And then you have South Dakota, which is, I mean, I guess they do have a lot of Indian tribes and stuff out there, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It's rad.
If you don't think
South
about
Dakota,
I think of South Dakota, I just think of just flat nothing and a guy living in a shack. But it's gorgeous. I mean, it's a gorgeous country, and but I mean, there's not a lot out there.
There really isn't much out there.
There isn't much out there. As big a state it is, it's not.
It's pretty big.
It's really not
size-wise, it's pretty big.
Really not a lot of stuff out there.
Various
population-wise, at least.
Population-wise, various tribal governments in Oklahoma designate the day as Native American Day, or have renamed it after their own tribe, which I think is very interesting.
And also makes sense because, like I said, there's still a lot of reservations and stuff out there in that area.
Yeah,
so
for real.
Definitely makes sense.
The Native American tribes in North America specifically really got the short end of the straw when it came to all that.
And that is a huge topic.
That's an hour and a half long topic with at least 2 guests that know what they're talking about, and not 2 boys,
not 2 pasty white boys.
Yeah, and not 2 boys that are admirers of history.
Yeah, that's so we definitely don't know anything about that struggle. That's for sure.
No, for real.
Except for what I've learned, and as they say,
what do they say?
History is written by the victor.
History is written by the big boy on the high chair.
The big man with the bigger stick. Teddy Roosevelt.
He was a cool dude.
He was an interesting guy. Yeah,
he was a great president. There's a reason why he's on the. Oh no, is Teddy Roosevelt on Mount Rushmore? He is.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, without googling it, let's see if we can get this right. And I'm sure people are yelling at their radios or their computer screens.
Like, you're wrong.
You're wrong. Wrong.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt. Not in that order, but I know that those are the 3 that are on there.
I think there's.
I've seen Mount Rushmore too.
Total of 4, right?
Yeah, there is 4.
Now we're gonna Google it.
I bet it's good podcast material.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, I'm right.
Good job, little boy.
Thank you. Like I said, I've seen it.
I'll give you a 2-second head start when we wrestle.
Take your clothes off. Get greased up. We're wrestling.
Wrestling. WRASSL.
Yeah.
E.
Wrestle.
Apostrophe.
Apostrophe in.
Wrestling.
Wrestling.
I'll spell it right.
In 2013, back on the topic of Indigenous Peoples
Yeah.
Day, the California State Legislature considered a bill, AB 55, to formally replace Columbus Day with Native American Day, but it didn't pass. On August 30th, 2017, this is pretty recent, following similar affirmative votes in Oberlin, Ohio, followed later by Bangor, Maine, in the earlier weeks of the same month, the Los Angeles City Council voted in favor of replacing Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day.
So it's definitely making that way.
Cool. It's getting, slowly but surely. And I just think that's the way history is for the most part. But definitely very interesting. It's such a hard topic to really not so much talk about, but you have so many stark and contrasting opinions on it.
There really are. And that's, really that's history in a nutshell, though.
It really is.
About it. I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't really
you're
matter
right.
what topic it's on.
Everybody has an
opinion. You have
opinion.
a winning side, you have a losing side, and everybody has an opinion on who was right and who was wrong.
Yeah.
Whether it's Civil War or Columbus.
Where the biggest argument about it is, yes, it was wrong that he started the transatlantic slave trade. But if he had not been to that area, we would not be here talking to you through magic radio waves. Right? There's a very interesting channel, and I think everybody that has access to the internet and YouTube should watch this channel. It's called Alternate History Hub. I mean, you have watched some of those videos.
I believe we have, yeah.
And his videos pretty much explore events or time periods and what had happened had something else happened. For example, what if Germany had won World War I? And he said, obviously, there would not have been a World War II.
Right. I mean, it's incredibly interesting.
It really is.
I mean, if there's kind of those linchpins in history,
Yeah.
And if they would have went a different way, a different path, I mean, history would be entirely different.
Yeah. To touch back on the Germany winning World War I topic, how the 20th and 21st century were America's century,
right?
It would have been Germany's century.
Absolutely. I mean,
because if Germany had won,
you would have had no America essentially.
Well, no, we would have a very contemporary isolationist style America,
right?
And I hate that people call parts of the United States history isolationist, because what we consider history now were politics and were controversial issues then. We haven't always had all 50 states.
No.
And
I mean, we didn't have all 50 states up until, the 50s or something?
Yeah, my grandma...
I think Hawaii was made a state, in the 50s.
Hawaii and Alaska were the last two states, 49
something
and 50.
Like that, yeah.
But my grandma...
It wasn't that long ago.
It really wasn't, in retrospect.
Which is really surprising.
Yeah.
I mean...
My grandma actually remembers... She does remember when they passed the vote to bring in 2 new states.
That's why, and that's just wild to me, because it's not that long ago.
It
but
really
feels
is.
It feels like it's
looking at it through the lens of time and history.
Yeah, it feels like it feels like ancient history.
Yeah, it really
does.
But
it's really not that far removed, which is just so wild to me.
Yeah, it is wild, and it makes me sad that you can't time travel and go back to see how things were, because that would be crazy. I mean, I would love to sit on some of the Senate and
I know, just to be
Congress
like
hearings of
just
all
a
that.
fly on the wall,
For real.
to be a page or an errand boy.
Yeah.
In some of those big, like the writing the Magna Carta or signing of the Declaration.
The Continental Congresses, yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing the first shot in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Being at the battle of the very first Civil War. I mean, the very first battle.
I feel like what would happen if that eventually happened at some point.
Time travel?
Where time travel was widespread.
Yeah.
I feel like eventually you would have travel companies and just
that's pretty.
You'd have the
Mirror-esque,
Revolutionary War. You just have a tour bus
Yeah.
And you see on your right George Washington crossing the Delaware. What is that metallic beast?
Well, you'd have to have it. Well, someone made the very important argument.
Yeah.
That time travel does not exist.
No.
If it did, then it would infinitely exist, and we would have seen it. It's so complicated, and there's a reason why
it's paradoxical,
Yeah, extremely. And there's a reason why
if it did exist, somebody would have known about it at some point by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because someone somewhere in history would have passed it along. You know.
Yeah, or it's either in the future. Well, yeah.
Science.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of theoretical physicists and
it's
astrophysicists
pretty bananas.
bring up like, well, if it does exist, and I'm going to have to try to really think about this one.
Yeah.
If it does exist, then then infinitely exists.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't exist, then it can never exist.
Yeah.
Like it's such a mind-boggling scenario. It's on a completely different plane of thinking.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of like the movie Interstellar. You know, like that whole movie is just...
It's a mess.
It's just kind of a case in point study of that almost. Not necessarily time travel, but
Yeah.
in a way, you know, because their perception of time is different on those different planets they go to. You know, the one they're on, you know, it's like 8 years, like every, like
1 hour.
hour or something like that. Yeah.
I think I'll have to watch Interstellar.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, just to think about that, like, you know, like he comes home and like his daughter's like 90.
Yeah.
You know, like it's crazy.
Yeah, for real. It is crazy.
So
What a thick topic for these two thick boys.
with thick with 2 C's and a Q.
Two seasons of Q. I was going to bring up something else related to history, but I've already forgotten what it was. Oh, I remember what it was. It was there's a reason why a lot of science fiction writers and television shows and movies people don't do time travel now. It's because of how complicated it is.
Yeah, I mean,
and if you do time
it
travel,
adds so many different layers to, you know, your show. It's like, and you have to keep up with them for plot points. And
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it creates
time travel
so many
ruins
holes and
it.
loops
It can
and
literally
stuff.
ruin a series. There's a reason why a good animated series, Rick and Morty, they said they will never do time travel.
I think the only show that particularly does it well is Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best use of time because, you know, they go everywhere and
Yeah.
every time.
And I think the best movie version of that would be Back to the Future.
Yeah.
What an incredible series.
Definitely could.
The whole trilogy.
Solid 80s films.
Yeah. We'll have to do see, I didn't do 80s movie night this past weekend because I was camping up at Hard Times USA out near Rocky River. That's a cool place. That's a history related place. It's like an old 1850s and 60s style town. We need to go sometime. I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah, I saw some of your Snapchats. Look pretty neat.
It was definitely real cool. But we were helping park cars for the antique car show that was up there also.
Very cool.
And the people that wanted to see the old rustic village.
Village.
The old rustic town.
Old rusty village.
We made so many jokes about like period accurate jokes. Like
Bill Hickok.
Yeah. I made the joke. Well, let me say this joke, and I know it's not funny. I said this to all my friends, and I was like, "Is this funnier than what I think it is?" And all of them were like, "Yes, it's funnier than you think it is." I said, "Wild Bill Hickok wouldn't have been shot in the back if he just dabbed on the haters."
That's horrible.
But it's so funny.
But Elisha, what if they dab back?
Well, they must have dabbed back because he was shot.
Maybe that's how they dueled. They just had dab.
They just dabbed.
Yeah.
I did the well, it's a visual bit, but I'm sure people on the radio would enjoy it. I did the we were standing on top of the saloon, on the top floor of the saloon over the balcony, and I did the
Oh jeez.
I did that, and it was
Cool.
really funny.
You need to put those dabs away, son. Too much fire in this building.
But it's so funny.
On that note,
On that note,
we're gonna have to call the fire department and put this podcast out.
this podcast is going to have to get a period accurate disease and die before it turns 30.
Smallpox.
It's going to have to get a horrible disease and die.
And on that note, next week, cross fingers, we will see you.
With
we
a guest.
won't actually see you.
No, you'll see us.
We'll pretend to see you.
Yeah, you'll see the little numbers on the radio screen.
But we will have our big guest that we've been teasing.
I'm really excited.
I'm super excited. I think it's going to be a real good episode.
Yeah. I need to not so much remind him that we're doing a show, but like make sure he knows.
Give him a reach
come to
out.
my house. Yeah, for real.
Look forward to that next week.
I am too.
And on that note, I'm Ethan Duncan.
I'm Elisha Hunt.
This has been
The 9th episode of the Third Opinion Podcast.
Mondays at 2, Fridays at 5. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. See you guys next time.